Wars and unboxing fans, welcome to another episode of Darth Tuba's Star Wars Unboxing Show. I'm your host, Darth Tuba, and today we're doing a twofer. We got two items from the archives that we're going to open up, and not quite sure what years they are, so I'll go through them individually. We have the Saga Collection TIE Fighter. Now this is the actual normal wing span TIE Fighter. Well, I'll get to more details on that in a minute. But this came out in a year that is escaping me, 2006. So it's a 12-year-old item. It's about time it got out of the box. And then a year earlier, 2005, when Hasbro was still releasing the titanium vehicles, they were releasing titanium larger scale figures, or sorry, vehicles. And this is the die-cast Federation Droid Fighter. Okay, and I believe this is from Revenge of the Sith. So we're going to open up both of these. I think we're going to start with this one. So we'll put this guy down on the side here. Give him a moment. Now, the funny thing about the unboxing of this is that I'll be unboxing it and not unboxing it at the same time. Because if you look closely, you can see that it already has its own built-in display case. Okay, now that's a hard plastic piece. So you definitely don't want to throw that out. So when I open this up, I will kind of keep it in that plastic. It also keeps it dust free and stuff like that. So I don't mind having things like that, like some kind of plastic cases to keep the stuff in, just because the boxes take up so much room. But in some cases it's good to keep them in the box. But in this case, I thought, you know what, I think we should delve into this one. Unfortunately, sometimes I like to keep the box for the box art, but I'm also getting to a point where we're running out of room, even just to hold box art. So I'm going to take a little break from that, and sheesh, this thing is all over the place here. Okay. I gotta be careful that I'm cutting actual, pieces of tape or cardboard and not like actual plastic. This comes out with a little sleeve. I mean, it's a nice little display piece, even with the plastic. But then this thing just comes right out, and serves as a nice. Sorry for the dust, but serves as a nice little display like that. And it does take up a little less room than what we just had. And I think I might have opened up a one like this previously. Now, to take this out of this, beyond this, is a little bit more challenging, because if you look in the bottom, you will see that there are screws. Okay, now let me just see if these are functioning appropriately. If they are, yeah, I don't know. This one could be a challenge, because I don't have one screwdriver that's big enough to hold that. This one I want to use, but it doesn't seem to want to open them up. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave this one alone for right now. But again, by itself, it's still kind of in the package. It's very weighty. The titanium larger vehicle, like titanium die-cast metal, it's metal. So when you have, even the little ones had a little bit of a weight to them. You take these big ones, and it's the same idea. Now, titanium came out with metal figures. They came out with metal vehicles that are large. I didn't do too many of these. I think they maybe just had an introductory set, and that was it. And I think the titanium series had started to lose its luster after that. Now they're bringing it back in the form of Hot Wheels, releasing metallic versions of the ships. And so I've been picking and choosing. I've really been sticking to just the sequel trilogy. If there's a TIE Fighter or an X-Wing or a Y-Wing, I already have them in the titanium line. I don't need to have X number of them. I mean, I'm good with that. But this was a unique, I like the ship. I thought that the ship was unique. I'll get some close-up shots of this, and you can get an idea of it. All right, so very much liked it. Not seen too frequently in episode 3, but still was there from time to time. So that was pretty cool. All right, so we'll put that over here. And now we'll get to the big guns, which a while back, a couple of episodes ago, I did a shelf talk where I was kind of pointing out some of the stuff on the shelf. This item kind of stuck out to me because, for two reasons. Number one, it occurred to me, I had thought I had opened up one of these already in a video. It turns out that my memory is faulty, because what I had done is, years ago, I had, was visiting a relative's house for Christmas, and they had a son who got this for Christmas, and the son asked me to open it. So I opened it for him, and to put it together for him. But I never did one for myself. So this is the TIE Fighter with, it doesn't really say things. It says opening cockpit, ejecting wing panels, larger scale wings. Now, for those of you that were around years ago, and even like when the toys were re-released in the 90s, Kenner and Hasbro essentially created a toy version of the TIE Fighter. Now, it was really fun. It was a nice version. The wings popped off. It had great play value. But it was, at the time, a disproportionate toy to the vehicle that you see on the screen. The vehicle on the screen had larger wings. So what Hasbro finally did, you know, after like 30 years, they finally created a TIE Fighter that had more accurate wingspan that made the vehicle look a little bit closer to what they had in the movie. The X-Wing fighter always looked pretty close. It was a pretty accurate rendition. But the TIE Fighter was just not quite there. So they came out with this. I think they've released a few versions of it. This one, I do believe, comes with a TIE Fighter pilot, which is, you know, almost every TIE Fighter now comes with a pilot. So another reason for this that I opened it up is that I was having unfortunately, there was a small amount of water coming in. Not water, actually not water at all. It's more like just dampness, not even dripping water or anything like that. But just a little bit of dampness that was coming through from the upper level of my house, and it started getting just a little bit of dampness on this figure, so it's on this toy. And people, you know, will say, "Oh my God, that's horrible! You must have been devastated." And I've always said, you know, whenever I have any kind of situation that involves damage to the boxes of toys, to me it's like, woohoo! That means they get to open them up, yay! So I never weep for me when, believe me, I have nothing of a grand monetary value that if it got wet, I would be, you know, so devastated. I'm perfectly fine with, you know, just opening up everything that I have at one point or another. I'm almost sorry that when I mentioned in an earlier episode about a flood that happened in my basement that unfortunately caused me to have to open up a lot, or, you know, a lot of toys got damaged, and I'm sorry that at the time I just opened everything up in one sitting. I wish I had videotaped it. It would have been a fun video to see that. But c'est la vie. And plus, at the time, YouTube wasn't. I wouldn't say YouTube was the you know, the big issue back then. It was harder to upload videos, that type of thing. So I mean, I have to say I'm impressed with the box in this because it's, you know, TIE Fighter shaped, which I thought was impressive. But all right, come on, little guy. There it is. More cardboard. And it's funny to consider, like, and I mentioned this too on previous episodes, but it's funny to consider that people collect so much of the original that they actually collect the, don't fall on me, don't fall on me, you have to pause the video if you fall on me, don't do it, don't you dare. My, oh wait, where did, oh, there he is. Yeah, I thought you were going to get away from me, didn't you? I'm trying to get the figure out here. Come on. Oh, good, he came right out. Awesome. Yeah, but it's hard to imagine a time that there was no YouTube. You know, a time where YouTube was, in fact, a novelty, and a lot of people didn't even know how to access it, let alone, you know, you had to become very, very techno-skilled in order to upload videos, and now it's such a commonplace thing. I mean, my goodness, they have their own TV shows now. Anybody have watched the Karate Kid, or sorry, Cobra Kai? That was an awesome show, and I thought they did a good job. Now, the main component in the center here with the, you know, I love the fact that they sometimes stick to the mantra, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you come up with a good idea, stick with the idea. It makes no sense to do it any other way. And that's what happened with this. The standard spring-loaded, okay, thing where you can, you know, if you press a little button up here on top, it, well, springs out. Now, I will say that a downside, just crush the poor TIE Fighter. The size of the wings makes that same technology a little bit challenging because the wings are so heavy. The wings make up a lot of the weight. Okay, they make up a lot of the weight of this TIE Fighter. So you got to be careful, you know, if you're using it for play value. Displaying it, just make sure that the wings are pulled out a little bit. If you go this way, it's very easy for them to kind of get a little bit buckled like that, and that could eventually pull apart. Okay, so this is always a better way to do it. And of course, it has this little cockpit. There was some rubber banding on it that, you know, because it's been 10 years, that rubber banding came off. Like the standard cockpit, they haven't changed much of the center part of the toy in 30, 40 years. So that's pretty cool. Our little TIE Fighter dude comes with a gun. Unfortunately, the gun, you know, and normally has a little rubber band that he can stay in. Unfortunately, the gun is not easily, doesn't necessarily stay in his hands. Both sides seems to be a little bit of a challenge. So I'm going to just kind of let him hold it, and it's probably going to fall into the cockpit, but that's okay. And there he goes. All right, and there it is. They don't have any electronics. There have been TIE Fighters that have been released with, like, the original ones had just an annoying little whistle kind of thing. But in the 70s, that was really great tech. And when they came out again in the 90s, I do believe that there might have been some sound, very small sound chips put in there. This one is, nowadays, they have made the technology. They've utilized the wristband and the Force Effects or the Force Flex or whatever it is. They were able to now just put a tiny little RFID chip inside the toys, and if you run the toy next to the machine, next to the little wristlet, then you get the sound, then you get sound effects, then you get whatever you need. So it's a really great way to keep the price of the toys down, or the same at least for a while longer before they start going up, and yet increase the play value. But nonetheless, the only downside about this is if you hold it, you do get that. If you look closely, you do get a little bit of that bend the other way. But suspend your disbelief. It's okay. It's a toy. Okay, it's not a model, but it looks more like a model. That's another thing that I think is cool about this, is that Hasbro, with the technology that's come forward, Hasbro now has the ability to take models that were used from the movies and digitally scan them and actually get a much better rendition. In the old days, it was pictures. You were looking off photos, black and white, grainy sometimes, photos of these models from far away, or you went to the workshop or the studio and watched what they were doing, and you were like, okay, now I know what I need to work on. Now it's gotten more and more where they can get more screen accurate, to the point where you can take a model replica that's thousands of dollars that has been put together, or you can go and buy for, say, $50 or $100 or $200, you can buy a toy that is almost an exact replica as well. But it's a little more sturdy, it holds together better, and for those of us on a limited budget that can't go for the movie accurate prop replicas, this is a great second. Okay, so really, really nice. I'm so happy to be able to get this. I'm going to figure out a way to fit this in on my shelf next to the Death Star that I showed the other day, and maybe even some point line up all the TIE Fighters that we've had. And by the way, that's something else I'm kind of mulling around with, is trying to go through some of the old vintage toys and kind of doing kind of a walkthrough of what some of those vintage toys have, that came out, and then how they influenced some of the later toys that came, in the 90s and into the 2000s. It's a little bit more. It takes a little more prep work on that end. So give me some time to mull that one over. But this will do it for this week's episode of Darth Tuba Star Wars Unboxing Show. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, hit the notification button. Let me know if there's anything in the comments that you'd like to see unboxed. And check me out on Darth Tuba on Instagram and Twitter, and Darth Tuba Star Wars Unboxing page on Facebook. And until I see you next time, may the Force be with you.